taking a look at the schedule next, the first thing we're going to start out with is what fidgets actually are. So most people here are brand new to fidgets. So we're just going to do a quick overview of what these things are, how long they've been around for, who uses them, everything like that. We'll transition into actually using the Getting Started kit. So again, this is the kit that everyone hopefully will have received by now. But if not, we'll show you how to get one. From there, we'll transition into using an actual fidget. So we're going to use the sonar fidget today, which looks like this. So this is a fidget that lets you measure distance. So we'll try that out in Python and in Java, just because that seems to be the most popular languages. And then we'll finish off with the Q&A. So if you have any questions that I didn't answer, we can cover that there. The first thing to talk about is what fidgets actually are. So fidgets are USB sensors. They generally look like this. So I'll just pull one here. So this is a fidget. This is a sound sensing fidget. So they have this kind of black enclosure. They kind of fit in the palm of your hand like this. And they generally do one specific task. So, this is a sound sensor. So it measures sound. It'll give you a bunch of different frequency band information. That's what that one does. This one here, this is a humidity fidget. So this one is actually included in your Getting Started kit. So what this one does, it actually measures two things. It measures humidity and temperature. This is actually a pretty cool one. This is a new device actually. It's called a power plug fidget. So you can kind of see the little port down there, and this will allow you to control power to anything that plugs into a standard wall outlet, and it'll allow you to do that safely. So hundreds of these sensors available. So from light to temperature to humidity to motors. So DC motors, servo controllers, everything like that. We generally have, and there's a fidget for it. So the cool thing about fidgets is that you can code against these things in pretty much any major programming language. So Python, Java, C#, Swift, that's what we kind of use for education, but we also support a bunch of other languages. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you what a system looks like. So I have this sonar sensor, the sonar fidget here. So again, this measures distance. So what you do to create a fidget system is you take a fidget cable, which looks something like this. And what you do is you plug it into your sonar fidget. So you go like this, you plug that in, it kind of snaps in. And then what you would do is you would take your bin tub. So this is called a bin tub, and you basically need this in every single project. And this is included in your Getting Started kit. So you take your sonar fidget, you plug it into your bin tub like this. So they just kind of plug and play, snap in like that. And then what you do is you take a USB cable, a mini cable. And again, this comes in your kit. And what you do is you plug it into your bin tub like this. So one end of your USB cable will fit into your bin tub. You'd plug that in like that. And then you'd plug the other end of the USB cable into your computer. So I have now a sonar system where I have a sonar fidget, a bin tub, and then I have my USB cable plugged into my computer. So that would be like a very basic sensor system, where I have a sonar fidget and I'm looking to measure distance. So I'm just going to put this on my desk here so we can all kind of see, hopefully. That should be in view. And then what you would do with your fidget is you would write a little bit of code to talk to it. So right here I have, I'm going to close this up quickly. So right here I have a Python program. So it seems like most of you are familiar with Python. We'll talk a little bit about the actual code. We'll go more in depth with the code in a little bit, but for now I'm just going to run this to show you the output. So if I run this code, I can see that I'm getting a distance value from my sensor. So it's saying about 2,000 meters is reading, which is, 2,000 millimeters, which is 2 meters. And if I put my hand in front of it, we can see that it starts reading the distance to my hand. So Thonny, I'm not sure if anyone here has used Thonny before, but it has a really cool feature called this plotter feature. So just by right-clicking the shell and turning on the plotter, I can also get a plot. So here I can see kind of a live plot of my data, of my distance data. So that's what that would look like in Python. And again, another really cool thing about fidgets is you have very minimal code. So I have 1, 2, 3 lines of code really that's actually talking to the sensor and getting data. So it's really simple, and it's pretty powerful because you're just plugging, like it takes 2 seconds to plug things in, and then you have access to this physical data. So pretty cool. And we'll go more in depth about the actual code in a little bit. So that's what a Python program would look like. And then right here, I have a Java program just to show you. Again, very similar look and feel, and we'll go through it more in a little bit. But if I run this, we can see the same result in Python, or sorry, in Java. And I can see the same result if I put my hand in front of it. We get the distance values. So that's what a basic system looks like. Again, so you're just plugging in a sensor. You can plug in multiple sensors here, up to 6 on one hub. And then you can also have multiple hubs on your computer. So you can have a lot of different Fidgets. And then the code is pretty simple, and it allows you to get into this physical computing world without having to do any soldering or wiring or breadboarding. It just kind of lets you get right into it and write some high-level code. So you're not writing firmware or anything like that, like you would with an Arduino. You're just writing high-level software in Java and Python and C#, things like that. So that's a basic introduction to Fidgets. And the cool thing about Fidgets is that the company's been around since the early 2000s, and we've been selling these primarily to engineers, computer scientists, researchers. That's our target user base, which is using the Getting Started Kit. So if you take a look at your Getting Started Kit, on the side, you'll notice a URL which says fidgets.com/start. You probably can't see it from the box on my camera, but there's a URL called fidgets.com/start. So if we click on that, or if you navigate to that on your computer, you will be brought to this page here, which is the landing page for the tutorial. The first thing I would do is just watch the video here. Again, it's just an overview of what Fidgets are. It's some people that use Fidgets, some companies, just a kind of little overview to get them excited about why they would want to use Fidgets. And then from there, the first thing that you'll want to do is set your language and environment. So this is this button right here, and this will bring down this drop-down menu. And from here, you can decide what you're using. So today I'm using Windows with Python and Thonny, but again, you can select whatever you'd like there. And then once you press done, that sets up the website so that it is in, say, Python or Thonny, and then all the examples will be in that language. So you can always change it by navigating to this little button up here, and then that will bring you to the same page. And there's a bunch of opportunities all throughout the course for students to change their selection. So the course is broken up into 4 parts here. So we have the setup, so the actual build of your kit. So it'll come with buttons and LEDs inside the kit, and that will just let you show you how to build them. We start with simple Fidgets. So simple Fidgets are things like LEDs and buttons and things that don't basically actually communicate with the VinTub. So that's what we call simple Fidgets. So this is where we actually get into looking at the humidity Fidget, which is included in this kit. And then finally, we just have some challenges. So what I'm going to do is I'll just quickly dive into the build kit so that we can all kind of get an understanding of what it looks like and the content it has. What we have here is we have on the left-hand side, we have the kind of just showing you the structure of this section. And you can click on all these if you want to jump ahead. And then basically the only thing to really note is that you can click on these images to expand them so that everyone can see what they're doing properly. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. You're just going through, hitting next to get to the next step, and it will just show you step by step how to build a kit. The next step after you build your kit is configuring. So configuring is actually one of the more important steps because it'll actually get their environment set up properly so that they can continue to work with their Fidgets. So if I click on this, what this will do is it will take that selection that we made. So when I selected Windows and Thonny, it will take that selection and it will prompt me with the correct instructions. So if I were to change this to Java with NetBeans, then I would get my NetBeans instructions. I'm going to switch back to Thonny. The other thing, so this will show you kind of step by step how to get everything running, and I'm going to demonstrate that right now. But the other thing to note too is that there's a video instruction available. So if you just want full video, if you have a student who prefers videos, they can just watch a full video of someone going through it, much like I'm going to do right now. So if you're using Python, it's really quite easy. All you're going to do is, I'm going to do this with Thonny today, but all kind of Python environments are very similar. All you're going to do is find your package manager. So Python uses pip. So you're going to find your package manager, and all you're going to do is search for Fidget 22 native, like that. Yes, so Fidget 22 native, it should show up, and then you can just install the package like that. So for a Windows machine, once you install that package, that's all you need to do. You're done. You don't need to install anything on your computer. Right now, if you're using a Mac, you do need to install, and the process is slightly different. And basically, if you were to select Mac here, you can see the install that you would need to do. So basically, you need to download and run an installer, and then you would kind of continue to follow the path that's shown here. But for Windows, all you're doing is doing the Fidget 22 native package, and then you're done. So pretty simple. It doesn't take very long. Java is slightly different. Java. So for Java, it is a kind of similar process. The only difference is that you're downloading some files. So again, there's just step-by-step instructions. And for Java and Windows, again, you don't need to download anything. So there's no install, I should say. So you don't need to get your text involved. You can just download some files, drag them into your project, and then you should be good to go. Alrighty. So once students have gone through building the kit and configuring it, they basically will jump right into coding the kit. So I'm going to plug in my kit, and I'll just do, let's see here. All right, so I've just plugged in my getting started kit to USB, and I'm just going to go to the blink LED section here. So this is what every lesson will look like. They generally have a GIF here showing students what they're going to be accomplishing in the specific task. It has some text talking about what they'll be doing. So, in this lesson, you'll be learning how to blink an LED. So it starts out very simple, just so that kids can kind of get right into it and kind of build their confidence and get going. So again, what we have is our code section here. So we can see here, if you're not in the right programming language, you can set your preferences again. So I'm going to select Python and Thonny. And then what you do is you copy the code. So basically, you can either copy it with this button in the top right corner here, or you can highlight the code and just copy paste. And then what you would do is you would create a new file, paste it in, and run it basically. So for Thonny specifically, if I run this, it's going to prompt me to save the file. So I'll just save this as test2. And then basically, if I run this, you'll see my red LED flash. So let's see if I can get that looking slightly better. So there you can see my red LED flash, and I'm just going to run it again so you can see that. So that's what the students first do. So we always give them code to work from. And then basically what they do is after they've run that code, they scroll down and they have these practice problems. So the practice problems are leveled. So, the first one's the simplest and it kind of gets harder as you go on. And basically the idea is that they're just jumping back into their code and trying to figure things out and manipulate things and kind of getting a deeper look at the code. So, for this one, for example, the first one is, modify your code so the LED stays on for 2 seconds. So they're going in here, they can hover over these sections here to get more information, and they can try to find the spot that they need to manipulate. So here, they need to increase this sleep time to 2 in order to get that done. So that is the first lesson. Something to note is there are solutions available. So if you are going through this and you want to have the solutions in your pocket, you can always email us and we'll send those out. We just don't send them out to students, of course. So that's the first lesson. Basically what students would do is they would go next to lesson 2, but I'm just going to jump out and take a look at it. So the first lesson is blinking the LED. The second lesson is reading buttons. So they have these 2 buttons here. So they'll learn how to take input from those. And then they'll put both of them together. And then finally, they'll do a kind of, practice at the end where it puts together the buttons and the LEDs. So here they're doing a tug of war game where they're kind of racing to see who can press the button 10 times first. And, in that situation, they're having to use, they're taking code that they've previously written and they're adding, some conditionals and some variables to count and things like that. So it just kind of builds on what they were doing and also is a way for the teacher to assess their progress, basically. So that's kind of the first step is with the simple fidgets. And then if we jump into the smart fidgets here, The first thing they learn to do is read temperature. So again, it's going to be a very similar format to what we saw before, where you have the lesson, you have the kind of synopsis of what you're actually doing, you have the GIF. So in this situation, they're going to be reading temperature in degrees Celsius, and then they have their code. So again, if I copy this code, I can use the button in the top right corner, or I can highlight the code and copy and paste it in. And then if I do that and run this, we will be getting temperature data. So here we have the temperature. Try to make that slightly bigger. So here we have the temperature data of this room in degrees Celsius. And again, kind of the cool thing about Thonny is it comes with this this automatic plotting, which is kind of cool. So again, that's their base code that they're working off of. And then they'll go down here, and so they have one practice problem for this section, which is converting their temperature from Celsius to Fahrenheit. So, and again, everything is available, the solutions. And here we have a little bit more information about addressing and things like that. So the idea is that once they've kind of gone through the Getting Started kit, it will give them a really good background in how to use the sensors and how to use Fidgets in general. And then from there, they can kind of jump into more complex projects. So the Getting Started kit takes it a little bit slow, but really kind of makes sure that they understand the core concepts. And you know, it has some challenges too with these practice problems. And the final challenge is kind of using your sensors, using your sensor, using your buttons, using your LEDs, and creating a smart thermostat. So kind of get some thinking, going back to the code, and kind of really investigating this. So what we've done too is we have advanced lessons. So another way, kind of just for assessment. So if you have a student who's, you know, kind of flying through the Getting Started kit, you can put them into the advanced lessons. And because it's a professional tool, there are a lot of layers kind of available to explore. So what we've done is we kind of add to this once in a while with some new concepts, but we just go into some further detail. So, you know, for example, for the first one, we're looking at LED brightness. So we show them how to flash an LED at first, but then we start talking about things like duty cycle, which might be, you know, too advanced for some students, but for some students it might be awesome for them to learn about. And it kind of shows them that, hey, you know, if you want to make your LED dimmer or brighter, you can use this thing called duty cycle, which kind of varies the amount of time that the LED is on. So kind of a cool thing to check out if you have students who are kind of looking for a challenge. Another cool part down here is using multiple Fidgets. So we try to throw in some real world examples when possible. So in this one, they're talking about using multiple Vint hubs on your system. So again, the Vint hub is this device here. And again, so you connect sensors to it, and you can actually have multiple Vint hubs connected to a computer. So here we have a picture of an application of a company that uses Fidgets. So if we kind of look at this, we can see that they have one Vint hub here. They have 2, 3, 4 Vint hubs in their system, and it looks like they have, you know, maybe a dozen or so, a couple dozen Fidgets connected. So some cool stuff for the students who are looking to explore. So one thing I do want to mention is that in this news tab up here, if we click on that, this will bring us to our kind of news and webinar page. So we have our newsletter here if you're interested. But the important thing is if you scroll down, we have all of our previous webinars. So that's where this webinar will live. And this is where all of our previous ones are. So if you do want to get more of an in-depth view of the Getting Started kit, maybe like, I think most of these you can see, like there's Getting Started with Java, with Python, Swift, etc. So these will actually go step by step through each lesson. So it might be something, if you're looking for a deeper dive into that course, that might be something that's interesting to check out. I'm going to move on to this section, which is using the Sonar Fidget. So actually, if I just run back to that website, I'm just going to show everyone. So one of the way that we got to the Getting Started kit was by using fidgets.com/start. So that brought us right to the Getting Started kit page. If I click on this Learn tab here, this is also a way that I can navigate to the Getting Started kit. And then basically you can see here, just like the Getting Started kit's leveled, this is also leveled. So level 1 is Getting Started kit. Level 2 is device tutorials. So I'm going to jump into device tutorials now. So these are tutorials about individual products. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to find the sonar fidget, and I'm going to click on that. If I look at the sonar fidget page, I see a very similar flow to what I saw in the Getting Started kit. So, we have an image, we have an explanation of what the sonar fidget is. So, this thing measures distance using ultrasonic pulses, and it returns it in millimeters. So it gives the student a little bit of an idea of what they're actually working with. And then if we scroll down, we can see the setup here. So this is what they should have on their desk. So that's what I'm going to have here on my desk. Pull out my thing, pull out my system again. So again, I have my VinTub, I have my sonar fidget, and I'm going to plug this into my computer with my USB cable so that I can match the picture on the image there. Alrighty, so I have that plugged in now. And if I scroll down, I can see the code again. So again, this is in Python. So what I can do is copy this code. So they always have base code to work off, students. And I can paste that into my project here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through it line by line so that we actually have an idea of what's happening. And then I'll do the same thing with Java, just so we can see the differences and the similarities. So to start, every Fidgets project will have the same look. It's going to have these import statements at the top. So what this is if we all remember, we pulled down that Fidget 22 native package. So Fidget 22 native, that's how we got access to Fidgets. So all this is doing is it's just importing some of those libraries that we installed. So it's importing the Fidget library. So you'll always have the Fidget library, and then it's importing the distance sensor class. So every Fidget will have the class kind of written on it. So if you might not be able to see this, but in the bottom corner, this is the sound sensor, so it's the sound sensor class. So that's one kind of quick way to understand what class it is. But again, the code is always on the website, so not much to worry about. So you'll always have those sections there. And then after that, we have this import for time. So we use time down here, and I'll talk about that later, but that's nothing kind of Fidgets related. So the first real piece of code here for Fidgets is instantiating the object. So we have this distance sensor class, and we're creating a new object called distance sensor. So this could be called X, this could be called Y. We are just calling it distance sensor for readability. So that's the first step that you always have to do. The next step is opening it. So basically what we have right now, before this line of code, is we have a software object and we have the physical sonar sensor on my desk. So what the open call does is it basically just bridges those sensors. It says, hey, there should be, I'm looking for a distance sensor. Can you start talking to it now? So you'll always need an open line, regardless of what sensor you use. So after that, basically we've just put a while loop here so that we're continually printing the distance. And the line that actually matters is this one right here. So we are saying distance sensor dot get distance. So that will give us the most up-to-date distance value that the sensor has measured. So, and then after that, what we're doing is we're just sleeping in this while loop. So you don't have to do this. So if I comment this out and run the program, you can see the result will be the same. No difference. It's just kind of the stream of data is not as nice, especially if you're trying to graph things. So we just kind of give a pause, and also the distance sensor itself. I mean, this is kind of advanced, but it's not measuring data that quickly. So this gives it, you're just kind of getting an output every time there's a new sample. So that's the basic Python program, and they'll all look the same. So if you're using a sound sensor, you'll have sound sensor here, and this get will be slightly different, but it's really quite simple to get data from these sensors, and that's why they work really well in the kind of computer science world, because you're not spending your whole class trying to build a distance sensor, for example. You're able to just kind of use it in the environment you're used to, which is kind of nice. They can kind of focus on their software instead of their hardware. Alrighty. So that was the code in Python. And if I open up the code in Java, this is what it looks like. So again, it's going to have a very similar look and feel to Python. The only difference is the import's slightly different. So here I'm importing basically my class from the jar file. So if anyone here is familiar with Java, you'll probably be familiar with jar files. So part of the configuration for Fidgets is adding this jar file, and then we're just referencing it here. Other than that, you have the same kind of flow. So you're creating a new distance sensor, just like this. So very similar. And again, you can change this to be whatever you want it to be. So if I was measuring like height, I could call this height, just a variable name. After that, again, we're opening it. So has a slightly different look to the open call, but the exact same thing. It's trying to bridge the connection between the software and hardware. And then again, we're just getting distance here. So very, very similar feel. And again, we're sleeping. And if we run this, we get the exact same result, unless it's, oops, sorry, it's still open in my Python program. So you can only have it open in one program at once. And there's that data again, streaming in. So very similar and pretty simple. And if you want to add multiple Fidgets, basically all you're doing is so say if I had another distance sensor connected, I'm just creating another object, I'm opening another object, and then I'm getting data from the other object. So it's quite nice when you want to start creating larger projects because the code doesn't get that much more complicated. So that is what the project looks like in Java and in Python. And just to kind of end that off a little bit, so what you would do is generally you would have a getting started kit, you'd put them through the getting started kit course, you would have a sonar fidget or a different sensor, you would throw your students at the device tutorials, and then the next step is projects. So if we click on the projects tab, we have a list of projects that continues to grow. And again, it's all leveled. So you can choose your beginner, intermediate, advanced, and it will show you, basically you can select your hardware here, and there's just a bunch of projects here that they can kind of get into. So generally the projects start combining multiple Fidgets. So that's one thing they do, or the other thing is they'll start just going into more advanced concepts. But there's projects here available, and there's also extra getting started kit projects. So if all you have is a getting started kit and you just want to do more with that, we do have a few more projects available.